Happy Friday. I hope your Friday's going better than mine, guys. I haven't done one of these lives in quite a long time, but I couldn't find a better reason to sort of launch a live chat or space, as many people might call it, than today. Just released an article on X and a more extended article in my BIR ecosystem, which is linked at the end of the X article. I talk about my personal instance by being one of the victims of Cold Card's entropy failure. And I will tell you this, I have been a devout Bitcoiner, an aggressive accumulator for over 6 years now. And over those 6 years, I have spent a great deal of time and effort preaching the gospel of self-custody, trying to convince people that ownership trumps price, and a promise is not ownership. And for the first time in truthfully human history, we have the ability to truly own something, not just to have a claim against something that hopefully gets delivered to us when that claim comes due. We literally have, for the first time in history, the ability to truly be owners. And so I have spent the last 6 years espousing true ownership. You don't own your home. You live in your home. You don't own your money. You use your money. You don't own your land. You pay for it in the form of taxes until you die. You don't own the gold in the vault because possession is 9/10 of the law. And he who possesses your asset in the form of a custodian is actually the true owner. And people for decades, if not for centuries, have learned that lesson over and over and over again. You are a user. You are allowed to use things. You are not allowed to own things in this society. That is until Bitcoin. And what's sort of sad but very poignant about today is that the Cold Card failure in terms of entropy seemingly delivers a blow against ownership. It seems to vindicate the argument that you should have master hold your stuff for you, that you should have your boss be in control of what you have and even who you are, that you are not responsible enough to hold your wealth, your value, the fruits of your labor. So you should give it to another man to hold for you, to keep for you, to keep it safe for you, and hope and pray that when you need access to it, he's willing to give it back to you. Bitcoin has come to free us from this, but it does come with risk. And as much as we as Bitcoiners like to say that don't trust, verify, it is still virtually impossible to live absolutely trustless. And that's a hard fact to accept as a devout Bitcoiner who lives by the motto, don't trust, verify. But in the case of the Cold Card failure, there was one thing that a true Bitcoiner who used that product couldn't verify. He could verify the seed phrase. He could verify his passphrase. He could verify his Bitcoin on chain. He could verify every single transaction. He could verify that nothing he's ever owned has ever touched the internet. He could verify every single thing. He could have done every single thing right, everything asked of him to do as far as security and custody, except one thing. You can't verify the entropy protocol of a signing device. That's the one thing you have to trust. And so in that regard, it is almost impossible to live in a true trustless state. If you are to utilize any device created or constructed or manufactured by someone, you can't get around the trust factor 100%. Never. And that trust in this instance was failed. And so I want to share a little bit of my story, which I did a little bit in my article. I want to share a little bit of my story because I think it might help someone prevent what I just went through. And I want to explain to you where I think I could have avoided what happened to me, what I will never allow to happen again in the future. So if I can save one Bitcoiner from this, I think this talk is worthy. I think it's warranted. I think it's needed. Now, it's very easy to blame the Bitcoiner in cases like this. And I see some of this cropping up in the comments right now. Well, Oliver, you should have used a multisig. I have multiple multisig vaults. Oliver, you should have used a passphrase. I'm not totally convinced that a passphrase is the best thing for most people. And we will talk about that. It's very easy to start blaming the person who lost Bitcoin. And in most cases, that's actually probably the right thing to do. But this is one of the first unique scenarios in my 6 years of being involved, 6+ years of being involved in Bitcoin, where I can honestly step back and say, if you did everything right, you still may have lost. And that makes this scenario very unique. That's not to push blame away. That's not to say that things could not have been done better. But you should not be punished for the size of your wallet. You should not be punished just because you decided on the most secure network the world has ever known to have one key versus 3 keys. You should not be punished for that. You should not be punished because you decided to have a wallet more sizable than most people have. You should not be punished for that. You should not be punished for doing everything correctly and just being a bit bigger than most. You should not be punished for that. We're talking about the most secure network on planet Earth if everything is done properly. There should be no loss if you've done everything right. And there are many Bitcoiners who did everything right here. 5 years, our Bitcoin was exposed and no one said a word. 5 years of building the Bitcoin wallet up, deposit by deposit, gaining confidence and strength of gaining confidence in the security of that wallet with every deposit, every week, every month, every quarter, every year. 5 years, no one caught the vulnerability. 5 years, no one corrected the problem. And I know AI is making these vulnerabilities a lot more possible, but this is 5 years before AI. That is not an excuse. I don't buy that excuse. So here is how this happened to me, guys. I have a structure that one can view as sort of like a triangle. So I want you to think of a triangle, right, or a pyramid. And there are 2 points at the bottom of the pyramid, 2 points, left and right. Now, each one of those points in my system represents a generational wealth multi-sig. This is where I keep 95+% of my Bitcoin. And it is a multi-jurisdictional, multi-country. There's 2 multi-generational, multi-country, vast generational wealth vaults, which means that in order for me to unlock Bitcoin that continues to build in those 2 vaults, in order for me to unlock them, I would have to travel to 3 different continents to put the keys together. That is the coldest of storage that you can possibly have. You don't have to be as crazy as I do, as I am, spreading your keys out on different continents and not being able to unlock them for a week or 2 as you have to travel from location to location, continent to continent to bring the keys together. That is what I call the deepest of cold storage. And 95% of everything that I have is in that format. But that's the Bitcoin that I intend not to touch. That's the Bitcoin that I intend to pass on. That's the Bitcoin that I intend for bragging rights, if you will. That's the Bitcoin that I intend to just be generational wealth that is passed on, child to child, generation to generation. That is not something I'm interested in touching. It is something I'm interested in passing on. I'm 60 years old, for Christ's sake. So I've lived my life, a wonderful life, an amazing life, but I still like to build, and I build there. So nothing has ever, and nor do I think anything can touch those 2 points. Now, here's where a single SIG wallet comes in. It's almost like a petty fund wallet. Single SIG. It's with you when you travel. It is, you always have access to it. All right. You want to buy some coffee? Boom. You're going to do it from your single SIG. You want to support a Bitcoiner? You're going to pay from your single SIG. You want to pick up the tab for your friends at dinner, all right, and have them pay you back in Bitcoin? Nice non-KYC type of Bitcoin. Pay the bill for your friends, have them pay you back in Bitcoin, all right? You're going to do that in your single SIG. Oh, someone wants to pay you because you paint on the weekend and you're gonna sell your painting for $250 and they're gonna pay you in Bitcoin. You're gonna use your single SIG for that. So money is in layers, guys, right? So you have your retirement money that is rarely ever touched. You have your savings that's not retirement, that is occasionally touched, but only in emergencies. But that is more accessible than your retirement money. That's a different layer. And then you have the checking account, which is accessible more often, that you use to pay bills and so forth and so on, your credit cards and so forth and so on. And then you have the most accessible layer of all, the money in your jeans pocket, the change in your jeans pocket. My single SIG started off as the change in my pocket. I could walk around, and if it were ever to be lost, if it were to ever be compromised, which it shouldn't be, it's not going to affect anything. That, in my opinion, is how a single SIG should be used. It should be used to support Bitcoiners. It should be used to be able to accept Bitcoin when someone wants to pay you in Bitcoin. It should be used in a more active way, like the bills in your pocket or the wallet in the back of your jeans pocket. That is what a single SIG is for. Your multi-generational wealth should not be accessible. You shouldn't even put yourself in a situation where you can access it easily. Now, here is where I went wrong. Over the years, this single SIG that started out, this cold card single SIG that started out always being with me, always in my bag, always on every trip, whatever, it just grew. It grew not only because I just kept adding to it. If somebody wanted to give me Bitcoin, I added to it. I would occasionally add to it myself. Oh, I don't need this cash. Let me just add to this. But over the years, this amount grew. And over the years, Bitcoin's price grew. And so the mistake I made was not taking so seriously that my pocket change single SIG wallet moved from my jeans pocket level to my checking account level. And then it grew to a savings account level. And then it grew to a level where I should have said, this is enough here. Because now if I lose this, this hurts. This has gotten beyond its use case. Single SIG is not for generational wealth. Single SIG is not for retirement. Single SIG is for walking around. Single SIG is for supporting Bitcoiners. Single SIG is for paying for coffee. Single SIG is for small storage. And I let it get out of hand. And if there's one mistake, that's the mistake. I didn't top it off. I didn't have a cap to it. It outgrew the purpose of a single SIG. And so I should have taken the couple $1 million and moved it out into the generational wealth part and dropped that shit back down to a couple 100,000 or whatever. And I should have kept doing that, rotating. I did it a few times in the beginning, but I got comfortable. Now, did that loss do anything to my generational part? No. Was the majority of the value price increase? Yes, but that shouldn't matter. Despite the fact that I should have capped where that single sig went, despite that fact, people, I still should not have lost my Bitcoin. That is not my fault because my wallet got big. I should not lose Bitcoin because my wallet gets big. I should not lose Bitcoin because I never allowed it to touch a computer ever. It never touched the internet. I never clicked on a phishing email. I never put myself in a situation to succumb to a scam, or to be robbed, or to be put up at gunpoint. I protected myself. I did everything right, and I should not be punished just because the size of my wallet grew. And that's the problem I have. Well, you should have done this and you should have done that. Well, maybe, but still, I should not have lost my Bitcoin. Not on the most secure network on planet Earth, and not having done everything in my human power to do everything right. I did not fail. Bitcoin did not fail. Self-custody did not fail. A layer built on top of all of that shit failed. And they failed in the one place I couldn't look. Their entropy. The one place you can't look, I can't look, you can't verify, I can't verify. We can't verify that their mechanism generates our protection, our seed phase properly. I did not fail the entropy. I held up my end of the bargain. What I trusted, the number one recommended signing device by OG Bitcoiners, by Bitcoiners with the highest level of respect in this industry, by virtually every single major Bitcoin exchange, company, what have you. That's what I went with. I went with what was the best, assuming that the one place that I can't look and that you can't look, they wouldn't drop the ball on. The entropy. I can save my seed phrase. I can protect it. I can make sure that no cameras see it. I can make sure that I don't put it on my computer. I can make sure that I don't save it in the cloud. I can make sure that I never connect the device to the computer. I can make sure that no one even knows where it is. I can make sure that I have a backup. I can do all of my part I did. And I did it better than most. But the one part that I have to rely on failed. The entropy. Now, some people are going to say, well, Oliver, what about a passphrase? I'm not so certain that passphrases are safe either. And I would not stay comfortable if you have one of these devices and you think that you are safe behind a passphrase. I don't think so. But let's talk about why I consciously chose not to use a passphrase. I've never been a particular big fan of passphrases. And there are reasons. I've spoken about this on so many different occasions. Let me go down the list if you will allow me to do this. If you will allow me to do this, I'm going to explain to you why I consciously chose not to do a passphrase. Number one, it doubles the loss surface. And I've spoken about this for many years. You already have, with a single sig, a single point of failure, right? You lose the key, your funds are gone forever. That's a single point of failure. You have no backup. You can mitigate that a bit by having a backup of your seed phrase. So you have a single sig, but if you have a backup, you can mitigate that single point of failure a little bit. So you've got the seed phrase, your secret, and a copy of it. You are mitigating the single point of failure with a backup. Now, enter the seed phrase. Now, that's like having two things you have to take care of now. You already have the seed phrase and the backup. Now you need a passphrase and a backup of that. One miss of a digit with your passphrase and your funds are gone, even though you have your seed phrase and the backup. I miss one letter. I forget one letter. I get knocked on the head, and all my family has my seed phrases, but no one has my passphrase. Funds are gone forever. So now I've got four things to take care of. I got my seed phrase. I got the backup for my seed phrase. Now I got a passphrase, and I got to worry about all my family knowing what the passphrase is. They already have to know what the seed phrase is and where to get that if something happens to me. Now they have to know the passphrase, and they have to have a backup of the passphrase just in case they mess up the passphrase. There's a backup of the passphrase. So now you got four things. You go from two, the seed phrase and the backup, to the seed phrase, the backup, the passphrase, and the backup of the passphrase. That is over complex, in my opinion, which increases the risk, and it doubles your loss focus. So now, if you lose the passphrases, if you lose the seed phrase, but you have the passphrase, funds are gone. If you lose the passphrase, but you have your seed phrase, funds are gone. You have four things to protect instead of two. Now, this is the mode that actually kills people. Do you understand that forgotten and mistyped passphrases? Listen to me carefully, people. Passphrases, forgotten and mistyped passphrases account for far more permanent loss than theft does. I got my Bitcoin stolen. But do you know that the amount of Bitcoin that is lost because of passphrases is orders of magnitude more than all the theft in Bitcoin's entire 17-year history? Do you know that passphrases are at the number one spot for lost Bitcoin? People think it's the loss of my seed phrase. Oh, no. Oh, no, ladies and gentlemen. The number one reason for loss is not the loss of your seed phrase. It's the loss of passphrases. It's the loss of memory of what the passphrase was. It's the mistyping of passphrases. And did you know something else very important? Every typo on a passphrase is someone else's wallet. Did you know that? Tell me if you know that. I guarantee you the vast majority of you listening to me did not know that. Did you know that every time you misspell a passphrase, you have accessed someone else's wallet? That a wallet exists for every single mistyping. One wrong character silently produces a different, empty, perfectly functional wallet. No error message, no warning, just a freaking empty balance and no way to know which variant was right. I don't like passphrases. Memory is not a freaking backup, people. And if you have to start writing down your passphrase and keeping a backup copy, that's writing down your seed phrase, keeping a backup copy of the seed phrase, writing down your passphrase, keeping a backup copy of your passphrase, where you might as well go to freaking multi-sig. What the heck are you doing? You're already past multi-sig. So to me, it's either single sig or multi-sig, which is what I had, single sig and multi-sig. I didn't see the intelligence so much in a passphrase. Now, some people can say, well, Oliver, man, maybe you would have had your seven-figure Bitcoin if passphrase. Maybe, but that doesn't make what I said wrong. That is my case against, well, Oliver, I'm surprised that you're almost like a Bitcoin OG, which I do not consider myself, by the way, but people say it. You're almost like a Bitcoin OG. You should know better. Passphrase. No. No, I'm still not a believer. All right. Now it comes to something else here that I want to talk about. The 3 of 5 multisig versus the 2 of 3 multisig. Because some people I think will be, especially in light of what's happened here, I think some people will say, well, why don't I just go all the way instead of doing multisig? Because multisig is the Bitcoin standard, right? For true self-custody, for real size, for real wealth. And you should not have multi-sig when you get wealthy. You should have multi-sig when what you hold is going to make you wealthy in 2032. If you have enough Bitcoin today that will make you head and shoulders above most people on planet Earth by 2032, you should have single sig now. You should not plan for when it gets there. You should plan for it before it gets there. So we know that multi-sig is the Bitcoin standard, but now some people are going to be like, well, I want to do 3 of 5. Let's go all the way. And I'm not a big believer in that either. We know that when you multi-sig your Bitcoin, you should never have the same vendor with your keys. So if you hold 3 keys, all 3 keys should be a different vendor. You should not be doubling up, and you should certainly not be tripling up your signing devices. You have to diversify your wallets. You have to. This reduces the single point of failure again, or mitigates the single point of failure with one vendor. One vendor has a problem like Cold Card did, and now all 3 of your keys are exposed. So let's say you have a collaborative multi-sig of 2 of 3, where you only have 2 keys, and the company you're doing your multi-sig with collaboratively has a key. You better find out what they're using as their key. Because if what they're using as the key is the same one of your keys, you're doubling up. So let's say in this scenario, let's say the person with the Cold Card, the exposed Cold Card, has one Cold Card and they have a Trezor. And those are their 2 keys. But the vendor they're using for their collaborative multisig also generates the key with a Cold Card. Now, the 2 Cold Cards are exposed and your funds are gone. You think you have multi-vendor diversification, but you don't, because you don't know what the company is using as their seed generator. You better find out, and you better make sure all 3 of them are different. Now, let's talk about, that's with 2 of 3, which I think is superior to 3 of 5. Because now, when you go to 5, you got to have 5 independent top level vendors. Do you know 5 of them? I've been in this space 6 years. I can't think of 5. You got to have 5 now. So it forces you down the vendor quality curve. You can get 3 quality vendors. 5, you start to stretch it a little bit. So going 5 forces you down to vendor quality. All right, now which one do I add? 5 seeds, 5 storage locations, 5 backups, 5 let's think about, that's 15. Look, you got 5 keys, 5 storage locations for each of the keys. Can't put them together. Oh God, don't ever think about that. So you got to have 5 hiding places. You got 5 wallets. You got to have 5 hiding places. And you got to have 5 backups and 5 hiding places for the backups. Really? Talk about complexity. Guys, some of you after a weekend don't even remember your name on Monday morning. You going to remember all that shit in the heat of the moment? Doing that for 7 years? Wait a minute. Where did I have that? Wait, what house was I living? What apartment was I living in back then? Where did I hide the 14th item, I forgot. In this case, guys, loss risk greatly exceeds the theft risk. You're going to steal your own Bitcoin from yourself doing this nonsense. Also, spending. If you ever have to have access, or I make it hard to have access, I got to travel. Guys, I got to travel to 3 continents. I kid you not, which means that I never have a key on me unless I'm in one of the continents where the key is, or on one of the continents where the key is. But then I got to fly to another continent to join 2 of them. And that's cold, guys. That's cold storage. That's freezing storage. But I can do it. Now, with 3 of 5, you actually complicate that shit more. You got to now travel to 3 different. I got to travel to 2. You got to travel to 3 different locations if you do it right. Now, you may not want to be crazy as me. Maybe one is across town at your office. One is at your house. I just go further than that. One is at your mom's house. I just go further than that. I want to, if someone holds a gun to me, I just want to have to say, I'm going to have to die. It's too big for, I'll have to die then. Because even if I want to, I can't. That's how cold I want the wealth part of my Bitcoin holdings. I have to die because even though I want to right now, I can't. That's how cold I want it. Inheritance is a nightmare with 3 to 5. It's not easy with 2 to 3. 3 to 5, that's orders of magnitude more complicated. And in my opinion, guys, the marginal gain is so tiny. It's not like by going from 2 to 3 to 3 to 5, you're doubling. It's like 10% for a whole mess of extra complexity. Not worth it. In my opinion. That's just my opinion, guys. I got to just give you my 2 cents. I got to give you my 2 sats. I can't give you somebody else's sats. I can only give you my 2 sats. That's my 2 sats. And don't ever forget this, guys. It is complexity that is the biggest thief in the Bitcoin world. It is not the hackers. It's not the government's confiscating your Bitcoin. It's not the $5 wrench gangs holding you hostage until you cough up your seed phrase. No, the biggest thief comes dressed in beautiful clothes. Designer sits down next to you as your friend and says, I can keep you safe. And that thief, his name is complexity. Complex for short. Complex for short. Hey, Complex, we're going out tonight? Of course. Want a drink, Complex? Yeah, I'd take a shot. That's your biggest enemy in Bitcoin. That's the biggest thief. Complexity. So don't think that greater security comes with more complexity. Greater theft, greater loss comes with complexity. The simplest thing you can do is a single sig until the amount becomes too big for that. If there's one error I made, I got relaxed. I got relaxed just believing that, well, it really doesn't matter that much because it's unbreakable. And it should have been unbreakable. I didn't put my seed phrase in a password manager. I never connected my device to a single computer. It doesn't even know what the internet is. I never plugged it into a wall to give it power. I was that paranoid. I'm not plugging this into the wall. I don't know what's in the wall. I always fired up my single sig with a portable battery. I didn't even trust the electricity in my wall. Do you understand? I never clicked on a phishing email. I had my backup. I kept everything secure. I did everything right. And just because I had a lot of Bitcoin there does not mean that I should have known better or lost it. No, I don't accept that. I'm sorry. I don't accept it. I bet on the most secure network on this planet. I don't know about networks on other planets. We have yet to do intergalactic travel. I'm waiting on Elon for that. But until then, I only know what is the case on this planet. And I am telling you, I had my funds supposedly secured by the most secure network on the planet, even if it was just secured by a single SIG. But here's what I would do differently. And this is what I want to leave you with. I'm thinking about this after this loss, and it's crazy how you get the deepest, most profound thoughts and thinking and realizations and epiphanies after loss. Why does life work out that way? I don't know, but that's what happens. Loss brings about something more sublime, more special in a way. And if used properly, I think you go higher. I think you come out of the experience higher. At least that's what I'm telling myself. But here's what I would do differently, guys. And this is what I want to encourage you to do. Have a top to your single sig. Don't disrespect single sig. It has a place. It's your pocket change. Or you can go as far as it's my checking account. You can have some size there. You're protected. As long as your wallet provider doesn't fail you. But here's how now I would even get around that. I am no longer going to rely on the entropy of these wallets. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to roll dice, guys. And most of you probably are aware of this, that you do not have to have the device generate your seed phrases. You can do it yourself and input the seed phrase in the wallet. The wallet still has a use. The signing device still has a use. In fact, it shouldn't be called a wallet. It should be called a pen or a signing device. That's its purpose, just to sign shit. Mont Blanc. That would be a nice name for a wallet. Mont Blanc. Mont Blanc 2. You're signing shit, right? And yes, it must hold and secure your seed phrase. So those are the two primary functions. What we have allowed the wallets to do is to take over entropy for us. And this lesson has taught me not to do that anymore. So I'm going to take some die. I think that's the plural for dice, right? I'm going to take some die and I'm going to roll that shit 100 times or more for my seed phrase on my single SIGs in particular, but all of them. I am not going to give entropy to another man anymore, another company. I am not going to put that in, I'm not going to trust that to someone else anymore. And the reason why I didn't do it in the beginning is because I guess I didn't do a deep enough dive on it, because I always assumed that there was too much human error in that. That what if I roll it? Because every roll is different. And how can that generate something higher than a mechanical process that's designed for entropy? How can my hand, which is imperfect, I hold the dice differently every time. The velocity of the dice coming out of my hand is different every time. The dice land different. I get distracted by the time it's the 76 roll and, the dice fall. And it's like, that can't be as good as this. And I just didn't do enough of a deep dive on it. I let my common sense override that. But this loss made me do the deep dive on it. That while the human effort of rolling dice is imperfect, the imperfection drops the entropy from 256, is it? Whatever that number is, guys. I think the complete entropy is like 256 or 250, 260. Somebody knows the number. You can type it in here. Whatever the entropy that you really want, the highest entropy, the highest is 260 or some shit like that, right? Human frailty And human imperfection, rolling the dice 100 times, drops the entropy to about 220. So the very thing I was afraid of only has a minimal impact on entropy from 260 to 240. Now let's put that 260 to 220. I'm sorry. Let's put that 220 in context. Let's put it in context. Cold card was supposed to have entropy of 125. I am telling you that the human imperfect form of rolling dice gets you to 220. And their goal, their job, one of their most important jobs was to get entropy of 125 when your hand and two pair of dice can get 220. And they couldn't even get the 125 right. They got 40. I'm sitting with a wallet that I paid, a signing device that I paid top dollar for and gave my full trust to get 40 entropy when it should have been 125. And with my hand and two dice, I could have got 220. I didn't know this. And I'm guaranteed the majority of you didn't know it. So from this day forward, I'm a dice man, or I'm a die man. Is that it? Dice, die, whatever it is. That's the man I am today. That's what I'm rocking with. And if I knew that, this would have never happened to me. The other thing I'm going to do different is I'm going to make sure that a single wallet doesn't get so high that if something happens, it's not catastrophic. It doesn't hurt as much. Might sting a little bit because who wants to lose any amount of Bitcoin? But it's not life-changing. The third thing, never allow a company to do something twice for you in this space. They do one thing. You trust them with one thing, one device. You don't trust them with two devices. You trust them with one job. You don't trust them with two jobs. And those are the three things I would do differently. I didn't have a problem with the third one so much because I knew the benefit of having multi-vendors and stuff like that. And that's before Bitcoin. That diversification works. But the other two, dice, or seed phrase, now I take that responsibility out of the hand of these companies with my dice and my cap. I don't allow a single item get so big that if it's lost, I'm depressed. And that's it, guys. Now, I wrote a fuller version of my my experience here, guys, which is at the bottom of the X article that you see pinned to the top of my profile. That's the short version. So the X article is the short version. If you want the long version, just go to the bottom of that X article and click on that link. Also, I just want to let you know, I put out a Bitcoin intelligence report every Sunday. And the goal of this thing, it will always be free. I will never ask you for a single Satoshi. In fact, I'll be giving Satoshis away soon. I'm having a Satoshi distribution event. So make sure you subscribe to that thing. But my goal with this, guys, and I'll explain this to you, and I think it's important for you to know this. I want you to know this. I built the Bitcoin Intelligence Report to try to be a more systematic vehicle for what I did with many of you in the bear market of 2022. So in the bear market of 2022, I sat here every single hour typing, posting, encouraging, combating, fighting, and buying Bitcoin in your face. Some of you watch me buy millions of dollars of Bitcoin. You watch me pile into the bottom, buying 16 Bitcoin at a clip, 20 Bitcoin at a clip, 10 Bitcoin at a clip. At the lows in 2020, under 16,000, 16,000, 17,000, piling in. And just so that you knew I wasn't just a talker, I would show you my purchases. You can go back to that period right now, right here on X. But at the end of the day, when I look back on that, I said, I don't want to do it that way anymore. We're back in another bear market in 2026. I want to do it in a more systematic format. So I created what's called the accumulation index. I took my style, my approach of accumulating, which I think is one of the best accumulation systems out there. I built this as an institutional market maker. It's how I used to accumulate as an institutional trader. And I took that to Bitcoin. And so I built that into a model that you see every single week. And this model, if you were to follow this and you accumulate exactly how this model tells you to accumulate every week, your average cost will stay very close to the current price of Bitcoin. And Bitcoin will not have to work as hard to throw you into the wealth category. When I accumulated Bitcoin from the highs of 69 all the way down to 15,500, when we were at 15,500, my average break-even cost was 18. Bitcoin just had to go to 18 and the entire bear market was now profitable for me. It's under 18, actually. It was 17.8 something. My average cost using the AIX model in that Bitcoin intelligence report were 1.2% underwater. That's the average cost from 126 all the way down to 58,000 and change, 57,000. 1.25% underwater, which means that as of today, if Bitcoin were to pop up 3%, the whole accumulation from 126 to now is profitable. If there's one thing I know how to do, is I know how to institutionally accumulate this thing. And let me tell you something. Wealth is built in the bear. You have a bunch of bozos here who think that picking the bottom is how you get wealthy. Really? They still don't get it. You can't get wealthy picking the bottom, waiting. You have to accumulate the decline. Picking the bottom is a trade. I'm not in this for a trade. I'm in this to change my freaking bloodline. Do you understand? Generational wealth, people, not a trade. Oh, I bought it at 40 and sold it at 80. That's a trade, bro. I trade every day. I don't need that. I need Bitcoin to give me more than a trade. And the way you do it is what you do in the bear is who you become dictates who you become in the bull. You don't work in the bull, you work in the bear. And you got bozos trying to sidestep the bear. They got it backwards. And I won't let you get it backwards. You read that report every single week, and I promise you, as certain as night follows day, you will be head and shoulders above virtually almost all the Bitcoiners you read on X. You will be more intelligent, more informed, and more sophisticated in your mindset and your approach to the macro world, to the Bitcoin world, and everything else. And that is my promise to you. And it will cost you absolutely nothing but 15 to 20 minutes a week. So click the link and subscribe and start following that AIX model. And I promise you, by 2030, by 2028, and especially 2032, you'll want my freaking picture in your living room, and you'll have dinner with my picture on the wall in your living room, and you'll remind your kids, you see that? Look at it. Pay respect, pay homage to that guy. I followed his AIX. And this is why we live this way. Guys, I love you to death. I've missed these. I miss these talks. I miss you. I'm very glad that I can laugh despite this loss. But hey, maybe something really good's going to come out of it. Enjoy the rest of your evening, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, wherever you are in the world. Continue to stack, and don't let anyone convince you that this is a reason not to own your shit. Ownership trumps price. Ownership trumps everything. You own your way to wealth. Own. Don't work. Own. I'm going to repeat that one more time. Don't work When someone taught you to work your way to wealth, they lied to you. Don't work, own. Ciao for now. Love you.